Good morning, everybody. It's Hammer. Today is Friday, March 28th, 2025. I, of course, am with Hammer Solutions here with the Daily Mortgage Rate Update, the only place on the web where you get to join me live each and every weekday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, broadcasting to you on Facebook and on YouTube. As you know, if you're here live, say good morning. If you're watching on the replay, go ahead and give me a hashtag replay in the comments. Let me know that you were here. Let Facebook and YouTube know that you were here. Don't forget to smash that like button, tag an hello friend, share this post in a group if you're on YouTube or on Facebook. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to go ahead and give us a thumbs up, subscribe. You know how that part goes. If you would like a quick reminder, text message reminder that I'm going live each day, you can go ahead and get those. You can sign up at hmmr.io/reminder. That's hmmr.io/reminder, or you can use this cool QR code over here, and that will also let you know that I am going live. That'll help you sign up for those. And of course, you can unsubscribe anytime. Not seen anyone on yet this morning. What's going on? Is it, oh, there we go. There it is. I think it's just a little delayed this morning. So good morning, Deb Dickinson. Good morning, Lisa Norman. Hope you all are doing well. See a handful of people coming on. Allison Foy, good morning. Great to have you here. Allison, have you, did you see the post, the hot topic post in the Grab and Go social and on the new dashboard? There's people that are sending that out, and it's doing well. While I'm waiting for some live folks to get on, I'm going to do a quick plug for Grab and Go Social. So the pre-sale ends this weekend. If you want to get in early on the pre-sale at Grab and Go Social, you can go check that out. Here is the domain and all that information. It is up on the screen. I'm pulling up on Facebook real quick to show y'all what we put up there yesterday and why you want to use it, because it works. It gets you content. So let me see if I have that right here. And, you know, hold on a second. I'm going to duplicate this, and we're going to go to Sean Clough. All right. Okay, so real quick, if you are looking for a way to grow your social media presence, if you want to start getting loans from from social media, if you want them from Google, then you check out Originator Success. But getting loans from social is where it's at, y'all. You have to be using social. Anyway, I had seen a post that I and I'm calling someone out, so don't. You know, it's not the name of the post that matters. In fact, I'll hide it right there. This kind of post that we saw, you know, it was like, oh, non-permanent residents no longer eligible for FHA loans. These posts suck. Like, don't do this. They don't get you business, right? If you want to see something that actually works, here's a post. And what we did is we actually wrote this copy. We created this image. So Grab and Go Social members just needed to go to the dashboard, download the image, and paste it right to their Facebook or other profiles. Boom, they're done, right? So did the FHA just shut the door on millions of potential home buyers? FHA loans now require U.S. citizenship or permanent residency, and it's going into effect on all loans with FHA case numbers after March 25th, May 25th, rather. What does it mean for you, right? So anyway, this is how you do it. This is how you get business. If you want help with your social, if you want to really, you know, nail that thing up there, go ahead and go check us out. So anyway, I posted that because it seemed like everybody was late coming on this morning. It didn't seem like everything was on time. So figured that we'll take that minute and share with that. So good morning, Angela Walters, Cindy Pulliam, Candy Williams, Yasmin Martin. Yes, Allison, go log in. Yasmin, you too, check out that post, right? So we created with that area called Hot Topics in the dashboard now for y'all. So go check it out. Rob Stewart, Mallory Fotiadis, good morning. Kenny Rivard, great to have you here as well. All right, my friends, I'm going to jump in. Let's go ahead and get started. Let me see if Mr. Siegel gave us a thing of the day. Not yet. Okay, so I don't see him in here. Let me put this back to here. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Let me pop over. Let me get rid of this real quick, and we'll pop over here. So come on, wake up, wake up. Okay, so here's a quick recap of what happened yesterday. Everything in front of this dotted line down here. In fact, let's zoom in on it so you can see it real close. And so here you go, right? So everything in front of this dotted line right here is yesterday. Everything on this to the right of the dotted line is this morning. If you take a look yesterday, we had the initial movement, which we tend to see lately, right? It's been the trend that in the morning we see movement, and then right around 10 a.m. it just kind of settles down. Yesterday it was eerily calm. I mean, really no movement at all. So there shouldn't have been any reprices yesterday, which we didn't expect any. But we've seen some volatility as far as today goes. You can see here there was a jump and an improvement this morning, and then it dipped back down. It's kind of coming back up. Some early volatility, not anything crazy, but some early volatility in bonds this morning where we're seeing them move around enough that you want to be aware of what's going on here and be ready for it. I do think that rate sheets should be a little bit better this morning. They tend to be conservative on Fridays. Many of you have experienced that same thing that I've seen before. So, rate sheets can be a little bit more volatile or a little bit more conservative on a Friday. But we're still, when pricing came out yesterday, it was around 101.25. And so we're up about 5 basis points, 8 basis points. What does that really mean? It's just a couple of basis points in pricing. It's really not a big move at all. The reprice risk on the day is moderate. So we got PCE inflation data. I'm going to go over that in a minute. The actual core PCE inflation data, which is what markets are looking at more than the headline number, came in higher than expected. However, why did we not see rates take a dump? Why did we not see bonds lose ground? It's because of consumer spending. So, but rates today, it's a Friday. We could see them drift lower today. So definitely keep that in mind. We've seen some movement already this morning, and there's really not a lot of gains. There's not a lot of cushion. So reprice risk on the day is moderate. We could see bonds go ahead and move lower. As far as my lock advice, I'm going to bring it up over here. So I just think that this is good. We're going to kind of go through this together. So as we've already covered, rates today are likely to be similar to yesterday, maybe slightly better for some lenders. Reprice risk on the day is moderate. We could see bonds drift lower as the day goes on. Bonds improving today despite PCE inflation data coming in higher than expected. The saving grace in the inflation data was that consumer spending was much weaker than expected, and I'll show you that in a minute, pointing to a weakening economy that favors bonds. Rate sheets are still going to end the week worse than they started it. Next week, we've got some potential for volatility. We got jobs data, and then you've got Liberation Day with President Trump. So let's take a look here. Let's use Mortgage News Daily as a reference point. Yesterday ticked up to 6.82. That's kind of the high watermark that we've seen for rate sheets over the last 30 days or so. They'll be a little bit better this morning. Let's call it back to 6.8. But last Friday was the 21st, 6.72. And let's say today we end around 6.8 or 6.82. Again, so there you go. Rates slightly worse for the week. Not tremendously. It's more, it's pricing more than anything. Let's take a look at some of the different things. So yesterday's GDP data, we know that the economy grew. Corporate profits jumped. That was something I found interesting. But going on to today, let's kind of go over here. So U.S. core PC inflation picks up. Spending is weaker than forecast. This is the caveat. This is why you're not seeing things get a lot worse today. It's because of the spending that is much weaker than what was expected. So what I'm going to do is show you the actual numbers here. So you've got your headline. The month over month was expected to be 0.3. It came in at 0.3. The core, though, was expected to be 0.3, and it came in at 0.4. The headline year over year, 2.5, 2.5. Remember, this is the Fed's favorite gauge of inflation. So when we talk about 2% inflation with the Fed, you're talking about this PCE price index, and we're only just barely above what it is. Now, it still feels uncomfortable, especially like we're not going to see deflation. Remember, deflation is when prices drop, when you have more supply than demand. We're not yet ready to see deflation. We're not even really seeing enough disinflation. Disinflation is the slowdown in inflation. Remember that for the last 10 years, we haven't really had a lot of inflation. And that's kind of the problem here. We really still seeing continued inflation, and we still see prices moving higher. Good morning, Jessica Wells, Dan Herbert, Tom Dedmore, Amy Blaser, Charlie Bedita. Great to see all of you here. So anyway, but check this out. Real consumer spending was down 0.1% versus 0.3%. This kind of nails it here. So the report points to stubborn inflation. just as President Donald Trump's planned tariffs risk stoking price pressures even further. Remember, next week on the 2nd, he's dubbed that Liberation Day. Officials are holding interest rates steady until they have a better sense of Trump's policies, particularly tariffs, ahead of next week's big rollout that the president has dubbed Liberation Day. While Trump imposed some levies on China last month, they didn't seem to have much of an impact on price data as consumer and producer prices both stepped down in February. Again, it's too early for all those to hit, though. It's a lagging indicator, so they're not really bringing that in properly. Now, here's one thing that really we want to be paying attention to. The Fed's own forecasts. Remember, the Fed meeting was last week. We had the dot plot and Fed Chair Jerome Powell's press conference, right? Policymakers signaled slower growth, faster inflation as fresh projections released at last week's policy meeting. Jerome Powell downplayed those concerns, even reviving the loaded word transitory to describe his expectations for tariff-driven inflation. Now, remember, this was not in the actual Fed policy statement. This was Fed Chair Jerome Powell's words in his press conference. Some of his colleagues have expressed greater caution. I should have that article up, not here that I want. Here you go. So right here is the key. Any perceived clarity was muddied this week by comments of individual Fed members who sounded like they were on a different page from Powell. Atlantic Fed President Raphael Bostic, who was asked about his take on the transitory word on Monday with Bloomberg's Michael McKee. His response, I'm not going to say that word. Nope. St. Louis Fed President Alberto Mussolem was similarly skeptical, saying Wednesday that he'd be wary of assuming the impact of tariff increases on inflation will be entirely temporary. Fed Reserve Bank of Boston President Susan Collins said it looks inevitable that tariffs will boost inflation. Minneapolis Fed President Neil Kashkari also emphasized the pace of price growth, saying it's above our 2% target, so we have more work to do. Markets are hearing all of this. It's not a concerted effort from the Fed that, hey, we think we're going to push through these tariff inflation risks and things will get better. So this is really just kind of a great focus on it. The result has been a battle between how quickly growth will slow and how sticky inflation will remain. So even though right now markets are seeing a risk off move, meaning you're not seeing money go into stocks, we're also not seeing safe havens. We're not seeing that money go into bonds. Because here's the deal. Inflation is bad for bonds because if you're getting $1 a month, if I say to you, okay, lend me $100 and I'll pay you interest, I'll give you $1 a month for the next 10 years. And at the 10 years from now, I'll give you back your $100. So that's basically what a bond is. I'm going to give you $100 and buy the bond. The bond's going to give me 6% coupon. Let's argue, again, oversimplification, but let's say it's going to give me $6 a year. That's what 6%, APR would be, right? So that's not APR, but APY. So, it's going to give us that $6 back. Well, what can I buy with the $6 this year? Let's say $6 gets me a 6-pack of Waterloo sparkling water. Well, in 2 years, what if this has doubled in price and $6 only gets me 3 cans? So putting my money into bonds can be risky because I'm not getting enough return on my investment, especially with the anticipation of where inflation is going to go. That's why inflation is bad for bonds. That's why it drives up mortgage rates, because investors don't want to necessarily invest in mortgage-backed security coupons that are going to give a 6% return. And remember, there's coupons 5.5, 5.0, there's 6.5, there's 7, there's 7.5, there's 8, right? So, right now that you pay a premium to get a 6% coupon, whereas if you bid a 5.5 coupon, you're getting less interest over the life of that loan, if you will. You're getting a discount. You get $100 at the end, but it only costs you $99.62 to buy it. So that increases your yield. You're getting more money back. That's why they have to be sold. If I'm going to take less interest, I'm going to pay less upfront. That's why you see mortgage-backed security pricing work this way, right? The more interest that you get, the more you're going to pay, or the less you're going to pay towards that premium. So, and that's how it works on your rate sheets, by the way. Mike's pointing out gold is $3,100 an ounce this morning. Seeing some of those funds looking for safe havens or buying gold. Absolutely. You see gold and you see cash. So that's where a lot of that's going. So right now, though, I kind of emphasized this on here. So rates are only going to move lower, right, if one or more of a few things happen. Number one, inflation falls. Well, today's PCE data shows that's not happening. What about the economy? The economy weakens eventually into recession. On this one, every time we get a weak report, something else counters it. We know that the economy is driven by consumer spending. Consumer spending remains up because people are spending money they don't have. So this one really depends on how long everyone can live on credit. It also will be affected by all these tariffs and the trade wars. So next week's Liberation Day stuff going to be, it's going to have an effect. How big of an effect? We have to wait and see. It could be a nothing burger. I mean, the tariffs have not been quite as big of a deal as everyone said they were going to be. Now, I want to say about that consumer spending, though, look at this article. Now, I don't know the truth to this. Take these with a grain of salt. However, Americans see growing risk they'll get turned down for loans. A growing share of U.S. consumers say they're not seeking loans because they expect to be refused amid tight credit conditions, according to the Fed Reserve Bank of New York. The share of discouraged borrowers defined as respondents who said they needed credit but didn't apply because they didn't expect to get approved climbed to 8.5% in the latest survey of consumer expectations. That's the highest level since the study began in 2013. The perceived likelihood of being rejected across different forms of credit, from cards to secure loans to buy homes and cars, roughly 1/3 of auto loan applicants expected to get turned down, the highest share since the start of the series, while nearly half of all respondents in a February survey said it'll be harder to get credit in a year's time. Again, all of this just screams where all the money is coming from. Again, I don't know the truth to this. This is all from the Fed Reserve, but if we go ahead and look at this, the number of auto loan applications that were rejected have been working their way up. You went from a quarter right after the pandemic, now up to 33%. Credit card application rejections are rising. Credit card limit increase denial. That kind of tweaks around a little bit, but it doesn't look like that's changed much. Mortgage application rejected. Here's one that we have a little bit of skin in the game. Do you guys agree with this? Have you seen? This says 47%. Who's applying for mortgages that 47% are getting rejected? But I guess it's maybe for the amount that they want. People that would qualify, but maybe they only qualify for $200,000 and they want to buy a $700,000 house. I don't know. And then it dropped just a hair, and then it goes back up now to almost, it's saying almost 50% of mortgage applications were rejected. Let me know in the comments, do you guys think that that's a realistic number? I would love to know where they're getting this data from. That just seems awfully high to me. Does that seem, how many, that just seems high. Charlie said 40% about right. Generally, and you guys are in the field. I'm not. So you're boots on the ground, generally due to credit. Yeah. So Charlie says 40%. What about from you guys? Julie says, I hear this a ton. My sister fears for her kid's future, and I hear that a lot too from parents. Oh, as far as borrowing and things being expensive. Yeah, we're going to see that continue too. So anyway, as all this goes, where am I going with all this? Let's wrap this up here, right? So the expectation, loans closing in 15 days should consider locking. We've only seen rates get worse this week. And with next week's potential to see volatility, we've got the labor market and we've got the Liberation Day tariff stuff. It's no time to let the dust settle. Only borrowers who like living on the edge should even consider the gamble of floating into next week. And if you do float into next week, it's almost like you got to be committed to floating all the way into Friday and Friday's BLS jobs data. And if that data does not show the weakness that the market wants to see, and that was the third factor here. If we don't see that weakness, you're not going to see rates get better. You're going to see them get worse. And then where do we go from there, right? And that's what you have to be thinking about. So loans closing in 15 to 30 days, I'm saying cautiously float, but I would really consider locking. I don't necessarily like the idea of floating into next week's jobs data. If we see it's like dangling the carrot, right? If we see weakness in the labor market data, it could help. But is it going to be enough? And how much is it going to help? What's the upside, right? So loans on the closer side to 15 days especially should consider locking. Just anything in the next couple of weeks. You can't wait. Yeah, but let's say that things slip next week. The labor market data doesn't come in showing enough weakness for bonds to rally. What next? Why would we expect rates to improve again? Are we looking at the CPI inflation report? Basically, like we live from report to report right now. There's no expectation that when we look at this trend, there's no expectation to see this trend reverse, to see bonds start to go up. In fact, I think that gravity takes over. We see them fall back down to where we were here heading into the tail end of January and into February. I mean, we had this nice little rally and we stuck to it, and it started back here on January 13th. But why would it really continue? We saw here was last week's Fed meeting. We got a little bit of a bump, but other than that, if you take this out of the equation, we came up here, and again, this was Wednesday, so this is the Fed meeting. This was still from the Fed meeting, right? But if we take that out, we go right here, and we're here. We've been losing ground. 10-year Treasury yield, it's getting better. This is interesting to me, and this has to bear watching. 4.29, whereas yesterday it ended the day at 4.36. So the 10-year yield is dropping. I don't think that that's going to hold up for long, though. I think it's going to bounce right back up. But if this is down, this is why we can cautiously float and be watching that and see what that brings. So Deb Dickinson said that might come from the call reports. And you say it's about right. Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that from you guys. Almir said maybe if they're factoring condos in Florida. Mike says no way too high. Maybe it shops with high volume. That's what I was thinking too. So it really depends. Mike said, funny we rely on original reports and not the corrected one. Exactly. I mean, it's, but the last two weren't adjusted that much when it came to the labor market data last week. So anyway, that's my advice, y'all. As we head into the weekend, just keep that in mind. Next week's going to be a little bit more volatility. We've seen rate sheets creeping a little bit worse here. I think we continue to see them creep a little bit worse. Let's use it, Optimal Blue here and take a look at this. I mean, again, here we are on, why is it not? Yeah. Okay. It's not. Let me refresh it. Okay. So, I mean, we're not really seeing them move too much higher here, but what this doesn't take into effect is points. So the one thing about the Optimal Blue one is it's showing what loans were locked at, but you could have been locking at 6.68 and then 6.65, but collecting a quarter point. And it doesn't show any of that. So to me, that's why these are a lot less reliable, because you see it says simply taking the average rate of all appropriate locks locked through the system on a given day, no adjustment to the rates that account for buy up or buy down decisions made by individuals. So it's not taking into account any points when you look at this. It's what loans that have been locked according to their system, whereas rate sheets kind of, I think, show a little bit more truth to that, and we see that creeping higher. So just keep that in mind. What are y'all doing this weekend? I'll show you some pictures on Monday of the kitchen. I'll be working on the kitchen and putting some stuff up in the barn, honey-do list stuff. You know how it goes, all the regular things I've been doing. Let me know what you guys are doing in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. Hopefully you found some value to today's comments. There's 25 of you on, so at least some of you did. And I'm going to wrap it up. Hope you all have a fantastic day. I'll see you on Monday. Take care, my friends. Bye-bye.